Our player tip of the podcast is, don't be a dick. And you can avoid dickitude by not checking every damn thing. You guys suck. You waste my time all the time. Don't do it. It's not necessary. Sorry.
I find that ironic after last Friday.
Yes. There is a bit of irony for those of you who don't know. I'm going to keep that to us.
Yeah.
Anyways, so many players like to poke the floor with a 10-foot pole as they, move through the dungeon hall and, looking for traps. And, better safe than sorry. I'm gonna keep doing that. This cliche this cliche often ignores the additional risks that really they're creating by if you got your head down and are moving at a crawl, you're really giving the enemies way more time to rally their forces and set up ambushes to surround you. If you're too busy tinkering with the door for several minutes, Mr. Rogue, who wants to roll 10 times, you won't surprise anything lurking on the other side. More likely, they're going to have an action ready, to bow drawn, a spell readied, waiting for you to open that door so they can blow your face up. But more than anything, it's boring. It's no fun for anybody at the table, not even the DM, really. I don't want to sit there. I check for a trap. I check for a trap. I check for a trap. You'll want to use your time more profitably by checking only likely spots, I think. Now, does that mean if you fall into a trap, it's my fault for giving you this advice? Not really. You could just say, I check for traps along the hall. You don't have to stop and make sure you trip. Well, give me one check. And if you roll poopy, you're probably going to stumble into something. That's just how it goes. I don't need to make you roll 20 checks. You don't need 20 checks to determine whether you didn't find one or two different traps.
I mean, by all means, do check around, because, you didn't know you'll find like a fireball behind the door.
What do you think about this, Christian?
No, it's very accurate. Every action should have a consequence.
Yes.
If you're going to take your time, especially, players tend to do this on your traditional dungeon crawls. So what I like to do is, you have an unofficial timer. So a thing that I did not too long ago was the group was exploring this ancient dungeon where some bad guys had taken up residence in. While they still got to go through their big epic boss battle at the end, another subset of those bad guys moved an entire army of basically mind-controlled berserkers out of this place because they took their time in the upper levels. Awesome. And so now that gave the bad guys another arrow in their quiver, which they are now utilizing to great effect.
Right.
And so they could have stopped that had they not taken a long rest and multiple short rests in the upper levels, had they had some urgency. And as a DM, how you can counter this as a DM is by building that urgency. My players are about to go into a boss encounter. They have this entire grand plan of setting up distraction to lure the bad guys' forces out so they can go in. But once they go in, their allies only have so much time that they can do this distraction so that the players can go in and do what they're going to do. And if they go in short rest after every single thing that they encounter in this tower, their friends are all going to die.
I love it. I love that. That's fantastic. Mm-hmm. As a player, when you're trying to do something like this, and it's not, we've talked about story branching and causes of multiple dice rollings and stuff like that. But as the player, think about just outside of the game, how not fun that is. That really, to me, that's probably one of the biggest cons to doing this sort of thing. What I found that I've been tinkering with, I haven't been doing it for a while, but for instance, we'll go back to the hallway example. If you want to check for traps nonstop through the whole wall, give me a single roll. And depending on how big that roll is, will determine how many of those traps you find. That's simple. If you're the player and you're listening to this and your DM hasn't tried that, recommend that to your DM so you can make the game, A, faster, right? Because we actually want to get to the end of the campaign, for those of you that don't. And secondly, it just makes the game flow smoother. So Just try to avoid that if you can. If your DM is throwing trap after trap after trap and you have to do that, maybe consider the approach I just mentioned or an alternate approach to dealing with that, because honestly, it's not fun, at least in my opinion. Do you have fun with something like that, Christian?
No, not at all. I tend to avoid due to the fact that there's almost only so much time in the day. Other than the occasional like more set piece type trap where it's a trap that needs to be disabled, that just it's not like a pit trap or something like that. My players all like half of them know how to fly at this point. So, like the mundane traps kind of got old fast. So like I like to, if I'm going to throw traps at my players, they're going to be traps that they can't avoid by checking for traps.
I like that.
All right.
I'll do that. All right. Well, I think that'll do it for our player tip of the podcast. Don't be a dick. And you can avoid dickitude by, I forgot the name of the tip already. Let's scroll back up. Don't check everything.